Hi, I'm an evolutionary biologist, and I want to understand how this really amazing ability called echolocation evolved, and whether it evolved the same way in bats and whales and another group of mammals called tenrecs. So, first things first, have you actually heard of tenrecs? Not a lot of people have. Tenrecs look a lot like shrews and moles and hedgehogs. One of them looks like this adorable little Pokemon. But what's really crazy about tenrecs is that they're not actually closely related to shrews, moles, and hedgehogs at all. Tenrecs only live on the island of Madagascar, and they're an amazing example of something that evolutionary biologists call convergent evolution, meaning that very similar body plans evolved independently. So a spiky looking hedgehog evolved completely independently from spiky looking tenrecs. But tenrecs have also convergently evolved the ability to echolocate. So echolocation is where an animal produces sound and then it listens to the echoes of that sound to navigate a dark environment or find prey. It's already a famous example of convergence because it evolved once in whales and dolphins, and it evolved completely independently in bats. As you might imagine, the echolocation varies from animal to animal, with bats using very high frequency sounds and whales using lower frequency sounds. These are really different processes, which is why this 2010 study was so amazing. It showed that even though echolocation is very different in these groups, both of them are evolving at the same genes. And some follow-up studies have since found a whole suite of genes that are all under selection in bats, whales, and a few other lesser-known echolocating mammals within rodents and shrews. But nobody has ever looked at echolocation in tenrecs since echolocation was first documented in the 1960s. So are tenrecs evolving at these same genes? My lab is perfect for looking into this question. I'm an evolutionary biologist who studies genetics and morphology, and I'm one of the few people in the world who has studied tenrecs. If we find that the same genes are under selection in bats and whales and tenrecs, it says something profound about the nature of evolution. It suggests that there are a limited number of evolutionary pathways that can produce a given phenotype. And on the other hand, if we find that different genes are under selection in tenrecs, that would be cool too. It suggests that tenrecs are doing something completely unique. So here's the plan. First, a graduate student in my lab is collaborating with some local field guides in Madagascar to get modern sound recordings from tenrecs. This will confirm the 1960s studies showing that tenrecs echolocate and give us a sense of how they're using echolocation in terms of navigation versus prey finding and how they're producing the sound. Second, we plan to generate whole genome data from tenrecs and use modern bioinformatics to identify genes under selection. And third, we'll model the proteins that are produced by those genes so that we can understand the physical properties and whether they're shared between tenrecs, whales, and bats. Throughout this project, we'll learn more about echolocation, but more importantly, we'll learn about the nature of evolution itself and whether evolution follows repeatable and predictable genetic pathways. And we'll learn more about this very poorly known and amazing group of mammals.